Lori's first.
Yes, ma'am. How are you doing?
Good, Lori, how are you?
All right, with the staff there at Angola, please introduce yourself. Record.
Deputy Warden Oliver.
Reginald Admiral, classification.
Carmen Shipley, Vendor Records.
All right, and we have Mr. McLaughlin. Would you introduce yourself for the record, sir? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Roy McLaughlin, 399370.
All right, and let me acknowledge the folks who have joined us today. I believe I have on my paper that you have the Chaplain Nola there with you at Angola. Is he there in the room?
He's not in this room. No, ma'am. I don't know if he showed up. He's kind of getting up there in the age.
No, ma'am, he's not here.
All right. And we also have in support the parole project. He's on Zoom, Mr. Channing Blake. We have some folks in opposition here with us in Baton Rouge. We have Danny McLaughlin, Patricia McLaughlin, Cindy Bell, Chuck Bell. On Zoom, we have Jimmy Allison, and we also have a representative from the DA's office, Ms. Tracy Barbera. And we'll, so before we hear from the folks who want to speak, Mr. McLaughlin, we want to hear from you first. We
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
hear from you, why, how did you end up in prison? And why do you believe that we should vote favorably on your application for a commutation of your sentence today?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
So the reason I ended up in prison was because I was initially charged with food stamp fraud by the state. And I was accepting food stamps at a store in Opelousas, and I was waiting on the deposit slip from the Department of Agriculture, United States Department of Agriculture, to be able to deposit these food stamps in an account. Couldn't do it without their approval. Unbeknownst to me, the Agriculture Department had mailed the deposit slips to me, but before I knew that, I went out on the street and discounted them at 50 cents on a dollar.
Well, wait,
Eventually,
Mr. McLaughlin, I failed to read some information into the record, and this is what I want you to respond to. You submitted an application for a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in April 2001 in the 19th Judicial District to a life sentence for second-degree murder. Nothing to do with the food stamps. Then in May of 2005, you were sentenced in West Feliciana Parish. You received a 1-year hard labor sentence. And that sentence is to run consecutive to any other sentence. That was for a simple escape. So tell us why you were convicted of second-degree murder.
yes, ma'am. I had driven from Boone, North Carolina, to Baton Rouge to meet with my wife, and we both agreed that we would meet at a motel room because the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office had been wanting to serve a warrant on me for failure to appear on the food stamp charge, and they were coming by the house regularly. I met with my wife, and we were having, a fairly good conversation. I was there to give her money and talk about our family situation in general. And my dad had helped both of us a lot over the years. My dad was my best friend, decorated World War II hero. And Marianne asked that I asked my dad for some money. My dad had always helped her out when she asked, and my daddy loved her and respected her. And I said to Marianne, Dad said he's not going to give you any more money until you get your act together. And she responded, your daddy can kiss my ass. And I punched her with a right hand to the chin, which made her move. And I did a left hook and hit her on the temporal side of her right forehead, which caused a very minor split of the skin. She fell to the ground unconscious. I knelt down, picked her up by the head. She woke up. She was probably unconscious 5 seconds. She woke up and looked at me and said, I'm sorry. So we discussed what to do thereafter. And because of our children and because she had to go to work the next day, it was decided that I would run down to the store and get some Band-Aids to cover the split of her skin. I had never touched a woman. No one has ever accused me of touching a woman. I've never even grabbed a woman in anger before. But because my dad was my hero, decorated World War II B-24 bomber pilot, and someone saying, your dad can kiss my ass, I just reacted very badly, and I'm very sorry for that, and I've got a lot of grief over that. So I went down to the store, and I bought some Band-Aids, and when I came back, I found her drowned in the bathtub. Miss Canty, the investigator for DOC, asked me why she would get in the bathtub. And everyone in opposition here today knows what I'm about to tell you is the truth about Mary Ann. Mary Ann was a wonderful wife and a wonderful mother. And she was a cleanaholic, I guess is the best way to. She was a very clean person, physically, personally, as well as house. I was with her 20 years and she took a minimum 2 to 3 baths a day. So for her falling on the floor and me coming back with the Band-Aids and finding her in a tub was not unusual. So when Miss Canty asked me that was my answer. That was kind of typical for Mary Ann. It was kind of normal. Everyone here in opposition today, I think, will tell you that Mary Ann was unbelievable in her personal hygiene as well as home hygiene. And that's the only answer that I can come up with why she got in a tub. There's no other answer. And one other thing, please, ma'am, Ms. Renata, she had a diagnosed mitral valve prolapse condition, which was a valve in the heart that caused her a lot of dizziness. I've never known her personally to pass out completely and become unconscious from that mitral valve prolapse, but I know that I've seen her many times get dizzy for whatever reason, mitral valve prolapse, and have to sit down. Now, I believe that it's not a coincidence that my 2 blows to her, I don't think it's a coincidence that she drowned in the bathtub. I think it caused her, to pass out again, or maybe the heart, was stressed. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just telling you the God honest truth.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. We're going to move on. We'd like to hear from Warden Oliver, though. Are you going to be providing any additional information?
No, ma'am. I think all the information y'all need has already been provided to y'all.
Could you elaborate just a little bit as to what is his housing location at present?
So his current housing location is CCR at Death Row Tier F.
That's why he's in the restraints.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. He has a history of escape charges as well, as you mentioned earlier.
All right. So
can I expound on that a little bit, Ms. Renata?
No, sir, cannot. We're
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
move on.
Okay.
So did Chaplain Nola ever come in? I just have it that he wants to speak in support. So he's not there. So the parole project, Mr. Blake, is there anything you want to add?
Good morning to this honorable board, Channing Blake, with Louisiana Parole Project. If the board deems it necessary to grant him a favorable recommendation, we just want to let you all know that we're going to provide him transitional housing, mental health, and substance abuse evaluations, social norms, and give him the full litany of the programming that we have here today, if you all deem it necessary to grant him favorable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. All right, so we're going to move on and hear from the opposition before we start our interview. So could we first hear from Mr. Danny McLaughlin? In front, yeah.
How are y'all this morning?
Good morning.
Good. My name is Danny McLaughlin. I'm the youngest, smartest, best looking son, of the two. And as I was thinking about what I was gonna get up here to say and what I wanted to talk about and all that stuff, I obviously, my first inclination was to talk about how this has affected my life, and it's no different than you can imagine. Has it made my life harder? Yes. Has it, were there times where things were harder for me than other people? And yes. But I have a great life. I have a beautiful life. I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful family. And it's everything that you would assume is from that. So I felt there was no reason for me to get up here and talk about that because that's my end, right? That's what I can control. How I reacted to what happened and how I reacted to situations after that is what I can control. And I'm not the one here filing for clemency. So there's no reason to get up here and talk about what I can control. So I figured it'd be best to talk about what the other side can control. And when I started to think through that, that cliches are cliches because they're true, right? They're time tested and they stood the width of time and everybody's heard the one actions speak louder than words, right? Your parents have told it to you, you told it to other people, and it stood the test of time. And I think the same holds true in this scenario. I always tell my wife, and I wouldn't take any of this, what I'm about to say is any miracle advice, but I would say that in a perfect world, I should never have to tell my wife I love her, right? Or every time I do tell her, she should go, I know, by the way you treat me, by the way you talk to me, by the way you provide for me. If you buy your child a vehicle, they should never have to say, I appreciate the vehicle. I know, because of the way you take care of it, the way you go on and on and on. And so we can get up here and we can say all these things we want to say, read all these statements that we want to read, but let's apply that to this situation. Actions speak louder than words. There's never been an admission of guilt. There's never been an apology. There's been 3 escape attempts. In those escape attempts, additional families have been ruined. Lawsuits have been made, won. Jobs have been lost. Jail time for others has happened. There is a mentally handicapped sister that her other brother was prevented from burying because of such as, we can assume who. There is a mentally handicapped sister that was living in her father's house after he had passed away, that she lived with her whole life because she's mentally handicapped. And so some unspoken person wanted us to kick her out and sell the house so he could get the money. Okay, there's been a dementia and Alzheimer's card played, which I assume was played leading all up to this, to kind of set the stage for where we are today. There's been not even an inkling of remorse or anything until conveniently, I'd probably say a month before this, which doesn't surprise me. I get it. If I was in prison, I would want to get out. I get it, but again, I just think actions speak louder than words, and his life before, his life after, his life since, and based on the letter he sent, his life afterwards looks exactly the same as it has since the day, and so there's a track record there. And none of us can predict the future, none of us are psychics, but all we can do is go off of a track record, right? The proof is in the pudding. And so there's nothing. And so I say to apply that to this, I really feel like when this came up and some certain person would say, I want to fight, we should have been like, I know, but you made a mistake. You got in there, you apologized, you took accountability, you've been pouring in people's lives, you've done everything you're supposed to do, you checked every box. I know you want to get out, I know you deserve it. That ain't the case. You could have got in there and done nothing and been better off. Because at least he wouldn't have got any worse, right? But instead, he's checked boxes on the other side. And so, with that being said, if we're here for justice, if we're here to protect the families of the victims, then I suggest that our actions speak louder than our words. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next we'll have is Jimmy Allison.
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. First thing I want to say is from what our heard him say is wow. I've never heard any of that before. Um, but he did murder my sister, and he was sentenced for that for life in prison with no parole. And I know this is not for parole, it's for clemency. But I thought clemency was saved for people that were on good behavior in prison and stuff like that, which he is far from that. You know, the man's tried to escape 3 different times. Um, he's been in trouble with the law and arrested tens of times before he ever met my sister. Then he marries my sister, gets in trouble with the law and gets arrested a whole bunch of times then. Kills my sister, throws her in a dump in the Homachetta National Forest, and a hunter finds her. And then he's convicted of killing my sister. And then while he's in prison, he continually breaks the law in prison, trying to escape 3 times, and numerous other things he's done. I mean, to me, he's proven that he is a lifelong criminal and has been convicted of murdering my sister and taking away her freedom that she will never have back. And I just don't see any reason with his past, his present, how any of that's going to change in the future. I mean, he's 60 something, 67 years old. Who's going to hire him when he puts on an application that he murdered his wife? You know, and then we're all going to have to walk around watching our backs all the time because he blames us for him being in there. And like Danny said, he hadn't ever even apologized for it. And you know, if he's admitted to God that he did it and has asked God for forgiveness, God's not going to forgive him until he makes it public. And I think he's a convicted murderer. He needs to serve out his sentence in full. And that's all I got to say.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Allison. We appreciate hearing from you. And then here with us, we have Mr. Chuck Bell.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. I appreciate that. So Mary Ann was my sister-in-law. I'm married to her baby sister, Cindy Sutton. I've known Roy since I started dating Cindy in 1993. And we want to talk to you about who is Roy McGough? Who's this guy we see on the screen behind me? And a word, Roy's a con man. He always has been one. He always will be one. We just heard more con on the screen, stuff we've never even heard before. You know, he lies. The only time you know he's lying is when he's talking. Before he murdered Mary Ann, Roy swindled money, especially when he's a boy that worked for him. That was a controversy. He stole money from my limited income mother-in-law under the pretenses that he was going to invest her money for her and stole it. He stole from non-family members when he got these schemes and these investment things. He said, these are my investors. They never came to fruition. He just always put money in Roy's pocket. That's all it ever did. Don't take my word for it. You can talk to people around Baton Rouge and other people, anywhere he's ever been that know him, that they will tell you what I'm telling you. He can't be trusted. What he just made up his lies. The only thing that I agree with that, what I just heard from him was Marion was a great mother and a great wife. An excellent mother for him. We used to talk about Stand By Your Man was Mary Ann's theme song because of how he behaved, all the things I just told you. I'm going to tell you more. He repeatedly wrote bad checks. It's on the record. In his mid-30s, he offered teenage girls money for sex, some of which were my wife's friends. My wife was 14 years younger than Mary Ann. So if she was younger, had teenage friends. She lived with them for a summer. Her friends came to visit. Roy's offering them money for sex. Like these girls aren't going to talk. He's been accused of rape. All the while I knew Roy, he never had a job I knew of. He never had a job. Like any good con man, though, Roy's convincing. He turned the tears on for y'all. You know, if he can do all these things, he can fake it. He ought to be in Hollywood. Don't fall for his lies. Generally speaking, like I said before, don't believe anything he says. He's lying. Mary Ann was adopted as an infant by my in-law, so my father-in-law was serving in the U.S. Army in Germany as a physician. She was given up by her German parents due to their inability financially to take care of her. She was brought to America when my father-in-law's deployment was over, hoping for a better life. At 39 years old, Roy ended that life. Although it would never bring Mary Ann back, when he was sentenced, it gave us as a family a sense of justice. It also helped us have a sense of justice for all the conning he had done, all the things he had done previously. We never expected this day to come, though, to be quite honest. We thought he was there forever. We didn't know this would ever happen. But Roy thinks he's smarter than everybody else. He thinks he can beat any system. He thinks he can, as evidenced by his free escape attempt. But please don't remove the justice that limited justice that we received in the sentence. As you can imagine, Mary Ann's murder created a tremendous toll on our family. The damage is still felt today. There are 2 sons without a murder, children without a grandmother, nieces and nephews without an aunt, a brother and sisters without their sister, parents who brought her to America for to have a better life mourned her until their deaths. Yet Roy never said, "I'm sorry" to a single person, including his sons, that caused all this trauma to. Roy deserves stay in prison for the rest of his life, just like he was sentenced. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Ms. Barbera, could we hear from the DA's office, please?
Thank you, Chairman Renatza. Tracy Barbera for the 19th Judicial District Attorney's Office. I need to make it clear this morning that I would be sitting before you this morning objecting to this man's request for commutation of sentence, whether he had committed all these attempted escapes or not. A man who takes the mother away from his 15 and 17-year-old sons should spend the rest of his life in prison. He was a manipulator prior to committing this homicide, and he continues to be a manipulator. Even while incarcerated, he reached out to other inmates and tried to get law enforcement officers off the track, off of where they may find Mary Ann's remains. He sits here before you today, and yes, he's a con artist. It's all about Roy. He sits there and he will admit what he can't deny, but he denies what he cannot admit. I believe Mary Ann knew that her life would end at the hands of Roy McLaughlin. She told the police that. The family knew that he had threatened her, that he was going to kill her based upon this divorce. When the police came to arrest him and he broke out a bathroom window, she said, "He's certainly going to kill me now." God bless her. She knew that that would be her fate. Again, he deserves to spend the rest of his life in prison. He is a danger to society. He is a danger to people inside of the prison. He needs to be on restriction. It is beyond my wildest imagination that a human being could sit there this morning and create this ridiculous story for you. Everyone in the family is correct. I can't say anything more about the harm that he has caused. All I can say is that of all the cases that I've sat before you on, I think that this probably is the number one. This man needs to stay in prison. Thank you.
Mr. Freeman, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. A lot of stuff has been covered that I was gonna ask about. I was gonna ask about the escape. I do want to ask you this. You claim she falls asleep in the bathtub. How did her arm get dislocated?
Me pulling her out of the bathtub.
Okay. So why didn't you go to the police? You automatically thought about, oh, let me go hide this?
No, sir. I sat with Mary Ann for 2 to 3 hours after she drowned or had a heart attack. And I was in shock. I mean, Prim Burns, the DA that prosecuted me, even stated during the trial that obviously Mr. McLaughlin was suffering from some type of PTSD. She didn't use that term. I forgot the term she used, but that's exactly correct, because after I disposed of her body, I was on my way back to Boone, North Carolina to act like everything was normal. And I stopped in a little town in Mississippi to digest what had happened. And before I came to any reasonable conclusion as to what to do. I just thought, because my sons would be without parents possibly.
You lied to them. How long did you lie to them saying that she had went to try to buy a car?
That was initially. Now, I emailed my oldest son 5, 6 years ago and told him what had happened. And I was under the assumption that he was going to spread it throughout the family. So for them to say that they didn't know anything, I'm surprised that Trey didn't relay this information, be about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
After my father passed in 2013, I decided to tell the story because I respected my father so much. I didn't want him to know that the reason I punched Mary Ann was because of what she said about him. So after my father died in 2013, I came forward and told the truth.
Okay.
I never spoke about my case before.
Like I said, most of my stuff's been answered. I do want to say the victim's son, Trey, says he hadn't earned his freedom yet. Danny, he's opposed. Brother-in-law and victim, Jimmy, Allison, subject still never has admitted guilt, which he's done again today. He never admits guilt. Chucky Cindervilello adamantly opposed. Kathy Allison, strongly opposed. Susan Solar's sister opposed. As we heard, the DA is strongly opposed. Hadn't taken no victim classes that I could see. He may have, but I hadn't seen them, which wouldn't have made a difference in this case. I'll be ready to vote whenever the panel.
Any other questions? No. All right, I don't see any other questions. Mr. Freeman will ask for your vote.
My vote is to deny based on victim opposition, law enforcement opposition, and victim's nature of the offense.
Thank you, Mr. Tillis.
My vote is to deny also because of family opposition and law enforcement.
Mrs. Stapleton.
I agree with my colleagues, but I'd like to add lack of remorse. You're not truthful. You are a danger to society. And I agree with the sentence that it was life without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence.
Mr. Price.
I concur, deny opposition. Plus, she tells an unbelievable story, and the escape attempts, criminal history, the whole thing doesn't make sense, and you're not ready to get out. Deny.
All right, Mr. McLaughlin, you've received 4 votes to deny your application today, so your application for clemency has been denied, sir.
Thank you all very much.